Welcome back. So what I want to look at here is what's called the projection field and how we live inside of the projection field and waking up inside of the projection field. You know, the word awakening, first of all, has so many expressions. It isn't just one thing. It is a continual return back to oneself. So the projection field is this programmed field that we live in, and people, project through it, and they're projecting onto you. And what comes with this projection field is this word imprint, and how we're getting imprinted by it. And this imprint is on an auric level. So the aura is like, an energy bubble that emits, that's a part of your conscious experience. And when we're around other people or just living in life, and especially if you're like intuitive or sensitive or psychic, you can be aware of the projection field even in your own private space. You can feel aware of the projection field of the world. The fear, fear just kind of sums it all up. Sometimes tensions come into the field, and it's like, where are they coming from? Not every day is the same. Every day, the energy, the evolution of the environmental energy is it's changing all the time. It's never the same. So, the projection field is imprinting in your aura. And when we look at the aura, that's where we can also be redirected back into our own subconscious and what's going on inside the subconscious, as far as I call them archetypal identities, or the archetypal identities that are going on inside. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of how archetypally bound we are. I mean, on it to a cellular level, it's all very archetypal. And how the story itself is life. So naturally, when we look inside and begin to look at the architecture of one's aura and one's inner energy system, it's going to be bound by archetype. The basic archetype is the woman or the man. And, a deeper archetype would be like the singer archetype, or priest archetype, or the wife archetype, cook archetype. If you go into a restaurant or whatever, you watch somebody who doesn't have a cook archetype try to cook, you see a little shift, you see that it's not there. You can cook without a cook archetype, but if you watch someone with the archetype of the cook, it's a different song, it's a different story. If you actually have that archetype and you're living in it, that's a beautiful thing. So living more authentically in our authentic archetypes allows us to be able to see this projection field and what's imprinting itself on us. What archetypes, what stories, what projections, what is getting put on our aura. And to be aware is a great tool, always and forever, because awareness awakens intuition, or they play together and they support each other. So, this is all perceptual. All this energy is perceptual. We're living through a primary perception. That's what life is. So to be able to see this projection field, and, I'm just offering up here another way of viewing one's process of, self-awakening and self-realizing, or it really is a deconditioning process. So, we decondition on the inside by not, lately I've been saying to people I do the work. I'm always hearing myself, I do the work. And then the other day I'm like, I bet people like, what the hell is she, like, what work, And when I said to someone the other day, I said, when I say I'm doing the work, what I'm doing is I'm nothing. I'm not living in the lie. That's what the work is. And this is why the masters in meditation and it's the stillness, it's the losing the identity so that we can be of the essence and not of the lie. And we live in a lie. We live in a world of lies. And lies are everything that doesn't know its authenticity and that's not rooted in its authenticity or centered in its authenticity. So when I say that I'm doing the work, it's because, part of the self-mastery for me is wu-wei, it's doing nothing. And I don't mean just like sitting on a couch and doing nothing, even though that is definitely a part of this. But I mean in like situations and conversations where, energy is being exchanged and people are relating to you through this projection field. And it, another word is like fake. People are just being fake. They don't know how to connect. The projection field does not know how to connect with you at a soul level. So if you're going to engage with it and get your approval from that, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying if you're going to do that, are you aware? Are you aware that you're potentially perpetuating a lie, which is not doing the work? The work all comes back to the truth. That's what the work is. It's truth. In the truth, the fountain that comes from the truth, as opposed to, living in a fragmented world, chasing after and, running from. So spiritual work is about getting to the truth. And when we stop doing, and the mind's a doer, the mind wants to do and manipulate and get into conversations and say things with people in order to produce a relationship. And often, totally under these circumstances, the relationship that's formed is codependent. Can't have one without the other. So this is what's going on inside. And then also this codependency, like the projection field is supporting, it's infiltrating, it's cheering along the codependency. And along with the codependencies come, the addiction, the running after. It's that got to have it, or and so when we're in the projection field, we can be very seduced if we don't have a connection with our center and our true self. I mean, the word true self is not something to just like throw around lightly. That is a super potent frequency. I mean, in a way, true self, is it archetypal, or is it, to me, energetically, that transcends archetype. The word's true self, it transcends archetype, because we can't give a storyline to the word's true self. But true self is what connects us with source. And when we're connected to source, it's a more evolutionary way of living. The projection field. I like to look at the projection field, and I like to, oftentimes, I like to see how it's imprinting my aura and my energy field, and how those imprints aren't in alignment with my true self. And so I like to, in my energy work, I just like to clear them. And how do I clear? I clear through psychic capacities and transmission and communication and clarity. And clearing is a pretty generic word. But, it's a generic word, but for me, clearing covers a lot of bases. And ultimately, what it means is removing from the inorganic from an organic structure. They say you're not broken, you're already healed and all that stuff. Well, that's the organic structure and energy field. That's what you are. But because of all this programming and the codependency of the other, and then we have the projection field enforcing that. You're not whole till you have your other, stuff like that. And I'm not saying, we don't need others and others don't contribute to our personal journey and process. But when we're coming from a place that is separate from our own sense of wholeness, then we're coming from codependency. And codependency comes with the addiction, and they feed each other. So these are archetypal patterns on the planet, and they're archetypal patterns in humanity, and they're fed by the projection field. So that projection field is what's imprinting on your aura. It's empowering the dysfunction. It's empowering the rat race that's going on inside the mind body, that's getting you all tangled up in yourself and in relationship to others. So becoming aware, this conversation to me points to how the inside and the outside are the same. Then we start to get straight with ourselves. We start to, come clean with ourselves about who we really are energetically, and we feel deeper resonance. And so we can begin to see this contrast on the outside. I think that word is a good word. And to be able to observe the contrast is a way to protect yourself from it. But sometimes you can't even protect yourself through observation, because the contrast and the energy within that contrast is large. It's heavy, and it's coming through this projection field. So, yeah. I'm curious, you get, yeah, well, the projection field is immense. It's it's stellar. It's coming from something so much bigger than us, but we live inside of it. And we've been conditioned in a program to function inside this field. And, somebody once said to me, it was another healer, said that, falsely projecting onto another human being actually damages the DNA. And I believed it. I believe it. I have felt people project onto me. I'm very self-aware, and I'm very self-aware. And I've been in the presence of people projecting onto me, or not even in the presence. Maybe it's just an email or a text, or maybe it's just in the psychic field, but I felt them projecting onto me with their words or the conversation, and it hurts physically. This has been my experience, the way I've experienced this, the viewing, the direct experience with interacting with energies in the projection field, and how people employ it. So, that's pretty extreme, damaging the DNA. That's destructive. That is so very destructive. So, and sometimes really nice people do it, and they don't even know. So, but they're being controlled and manipulated by the energies within this projection field, which are, they're gonna, sometimes you can be in a situation where, there's a lot of support and love and collaboration. And so, you're in sync with this projection field, all the projected energies. And then, really it's, this is the opportunity for your capacity to project energies, to project, to come out. And then, it's through that projection that we can share ourselves and our wisdom and our guidance. So it's, it's a scientific view at relationship with self and one's environment and other people, because in many ways it really isn't personal. All of our pain and suffering and confusion and the distortion. So I'm just introducing today this projection field and how it can imprint your aura. And is that imprint who you are? Or is it going to serve who you are? Because that will infiltrate, that imprintation. We're really susceptible. We're really impressionable as energy beings. We're manipulatable. So becoming aware of this projection field and how it touches your aura and then makes you feel and makes you think, that's important. And it's important to see that what comes from the outside and then it's important to see, is that triggering something inside, like a seed archetype that is, karmic in nature, meaning, karma to me is just, it's life. That means lifetimes. When I look at karma, I look at someone's life cycles and the archetypal storyline that they're playing. And we're born into a blueprint where we're here to live a certain mythology. But the projection field and the programming keeps us living as slaves, slaves to the mind, and so becoming aware of that breaks cycles. When we become aware of things and we no longer play in the game, we break cycles, and it becomes a powerful rebirth in the energy field. And this is where they say that when you change yourself, you can change others or change the things, and this is true. When we really start to take responsibility for the version of life that we live in, the version of the world that we're living in, and the mechanics of it, the mechanics of consciousness. And then we begin to understand how we are contributing and how we're co-creating with it. It's an archetypal structure. Archetypes go down to a cellular level. We're bound by archetypes. And I like the true self, the words true self, I feel they transcend archetype altogether, because you say the word true self and you can't conjure a storyline up off of it. Like if I were to say, what archetype, the priestess archetype, or the husband archetype, like there's a story that comes off of that, the child archetype. But when you say true self, there's no story that can perpetuate itself. So the true self is an invitation, which is what I experience, to get beyond the story and to start living more into the authentic expression of one's own archetypal mythology. And the projection field is hindering that. It stunts it. It's not like it's personal, like I said. So are you aware that you're living in a projection field? Are you aware that when you get triggered, what's being triggered inside? And are you aware that, clearing energies out and being able to see what's not working, and, it's as good as saying, oh, hi, here you are. And then, it's not like moving on to a better thought, because thoughts are like trying to hold on to, a stick in a river. I've always marveled at people who do this reprogramming and thinking and stuff. And I'm not saying they can't do it, but being on the path of ascension, it's not where I'm going to put up my campground, is in the realm of thoughts. The weather patterns change too much. So I like to put my focus or my work geared towards the true self, the energy of the true self, the authentic soul, your own expression. And to be able to understand who you are archetypally, you'll be able to understand when you're being asked to be who you're not. And spiritual work is an accountability. It's stepping into saying, I want to be who I truly am, or what I truly am. And again, it takes courage. So it's this projection field. Are you aware? Are you aware that it's imprinting you? It's putting itself, it's impressing upon you whoever it wants you to be. And are you aware that the true self doesn't take impressions? It can't take that impression. So, jumping back to being around people and, the interaction supportive and healthy, then we get to be in our, projected energies in a way that's, useful and has service in it. And that to me is where, that's evolutionary right there. And what I'm pointing to here and looking at is just the distortion and the confusion that's been created through the programming and being programmed in the mind, and not being encouraged to be your true self, but being encouraged to believe that you are not whole unless you have the other, and that's what makes you whole. It's the fairy tale. And even as I'm saying this, I can feel the projection field around me, just the mind of the field. And it's like it doesn't know what to do with what I'm saying. It likes the word fairy tale, but because I'm not living in a delusion and I'm connected, I am true self, the projection field can't really touch my mind and make me dream or fantasize about some fantasy. It's not the employment of the true self. The true self is like, to me, it's like a pillar. It's like it's a vertical energy that it can express. And then this subconscious programming, which all really comes down to archetypes. Archetypal structures, archetypal storylines. And wouldn't you like to be your true self, emitting your energy through correct archetypal structures and the right archetypal story that you've been born into in this life? All right, that's where we're going to end. Bye.